Hello there, world history people. Let's do part 2 of the ancient world. So, I just talked to y'all about Egypt. Let's talk about Greece, Rome, and China. Alright, so ancient Greece. European civilization emerged in the Greek city-states around the year 500 BC. And this is something really important I have to say. Greece never became a united political power. That happens like in the year 1800. It happens way later in world history. But all these Greek cities competed against each other, fought against each other, but they were kind of the same language, the same religion, and this disunity, I think, will ultimately create a lot of problems for them. And they're kind of a lesson we can learn in history. Like you really got to work with your neighbors rather than constantly against them. But a lot of really important developments came out of the Greek city-states 3,000 years ago, and I'm going to talk about them at length. So let's check them out. All right, so here's all those different political factions of the Greek cities, and these are the symbols of all the Greek city-states. I mean, like, I think the city of Taurus with the dude riding a dolphin, like, that's cool. Like, sign me up. And then here's the major cities. But the only cities I'm especially going to talk about are Athens and Sparta. So let's check it out. All right, the city of Athens was the biggest city in ancient Greece and is still the biggest city in Greece today. But it was a city of great wealth, learning, and art. The Athenians created the first society in the world without a king. They created a government system called democracy, where all white, landowning, 30-plus educated men could vote for laws for the country. And you're like, wow, Mr. Brown, that's kind of a really terrible version of democracy. Well, it gets better over history, and that's the point of this class. We're going to see how these ideas change and become more inclusive for everyone. And the symbol of Athens is this owl right here. It's kind of the symbol of knowledge and wisdom. And this concept of democracy, where sort of power can be shared and where everyone can, well, at this point not everyone, but where many people can influence the ideas of a government and participate. So that's their real big contribution to world history, and that idea is really going to make things a lot better later in the future. So let's check it out. So here's the Acropolis of Athens. The buildings are still there today, and they existed 3,000 years ago. This was kind of the central meeting spot in the city on this big hill. And there's your symbol. Here's people doing some democracy stuff. These guys are all kind of working together to make decisions. And there they are thinking about life. Okay. The city of Sparta was just a couple hundred miles away from Athens, and they were also Greeks. But they had some very different contributions to the history of the world. The Spartans are probably the most hardcore military society I can think of. There's no other society that approached how hardcore these people could be. They trained all their young boys to be soldiers. If boys were too weak at birth, they were to be killed. Sparta had more slavery than any other society in world history. Something like the population of the city of Sparta was 90% slaves and 10% Spartans. Like, every one of these Spartans had just so many slaves working for them. But so they're kind of the total opposite of what Athens aspired to be. Athens was working towards a society of sharing power and sharing responsibility and everyone working together. But Sparta, they were like, we're just going to bully you into submission. This hardcore military society really proved that they could be that powerful. Sparta's symbol is this upside down V right here, and Spartan men just trained all the time to be just super warriors. In fact, there's this really famous battle at the place called Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans defeated 300,000 Persians. Ultimately, the Persians won, but the Spartans inflicted so much damage on them. It was really kind of remembered as a defeat against the Persians because, yeah, you can't beat these guys. They're so tough. All right, moving on. Spartan dudes, hardcore. Man, these guys don't quit. So, yep, there they are, fighting it out. Super warrior society. Okay, so the Greek cities never united, never got along. They were constantly bickering and fighting each other. But then the country to the north of Greece, Macedon, was led by a dude named Alexander the Great. He decided to kind of make a political union with Macedon, Greece, and a bunch of these other countries in that area. And he, like, some of the, like, I remember Sparta was like, we don't want to join the union. But Alexander the Great came in there and forced him to join. And he said, all right, all of you guys are going to join up with me, and we're going to take over the ancient world. We're going to march east. We're going to take over Egypt. We're going to take over Mesopotamia. We're going to go all the way to India, and we're going to make it all ours. And for 14 years, he succeeded. This guy is one of the best military commanders in the history of the world. Took over tons of land, but then he died of disease when he was 33 years old. And after he died, his whole empire fell apart. I'm 33 years old right now. Jeez, Alexander the Great conquered the world. What have I done? But anyway, super cool dude. Have to reference Alexander the Great in a class on world history. So let's check him out. There's a picture of Alexander right there. Here's a mural on him meeting some people. There he is fighting the Persians. This is his grand adventure. He started in Greece, went all over Turkey, Middle East, Egypt, all the way to India. And there he is dying of disease. Shucks. But Alexander the Great, in his conquest of the world, he decided to start building these monuments that were completed after his death. And they created almost all of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. He also created something called the Library of Alexandria. It had over 2 million books in 200 BC. It was this giant building, and its goal was to store all the knowledge in the ancient world. I'm going to tell you, kids, that building got burned down. So a lot of this knowledge is lost. And the things that I'm telling you are just kind of the general summaries of the past. And it really sucks that there was a much more detailed record that no longer exists. So let's check out some of these wonders of the ancient world. Here's the great golden statue of Zeus that got destroyed over time. Here's the Colossus of Rhodes. It was this big giant bronze statue at the city of Rhodes. The United States sort of copied this in our Statue of Liberty. Here's the Great Library of Alexandria, all these manuscripts of every knowledge imaginable. And here's where you'd find those wonders. And the sad thing is the only wonder that still exists today is the Pyramid of Giza. All those other famous buildings have been destroyed over time. All right, moving on. So now let's talk about Rome. So after Alexander the Great did his thing, the next country that rose to prominence was Rome. They controlled the vast majority of Europe and North Africa between 100 BC and 400 AD. Rome sort of took on the best of both Athens and Sparta. They said, we want to have a democracy, but also have a really awesome military. And they took the idea of democracy where it was, people were voting directly on every law and everyone was sharing power. And they said, that's too much work. What we're going to do is create a concept called a republic. And a republic is where people vote for a representative to make laws on their behalf. And a lot of people wrongly think that the United States is a democracy. We are not a democracy. We are a republic, just like what ancient Rome was. So that's what it's about. All right, let's keep moving on. So here's some of those awesome things the Roman military did. There they are drilling guys to fight. Here people are being like, vote for me, I'll make laws for you. And here's the Roman Senate. And yep, America is a republic. And here they are doing the gladiator games. Okay, and the Roman Republic lasted for a while. That was a great little experiment in democracy. But the Roman Republic was replaced by the Roman Empire. And the person who made that happen was a dude named Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar started a civil war. He said, I want to be president for life. Some of the people didn't agree with that. But ultimately, Julius Caesar won. Almost right after he won that civil war, though, he was assassinated. And that's a whole story. I'm not even going to get into it. But when Julius Caesar was assassinated, his nephew Augustus Caesar took over, and Augustus became the first true Roman emperor. And emperor means king of kings. Augustus, he would be in charge for the next like 70 years. The dude lived forever. And the world would never see a republic or a democratic government again until the year 1776 with America. So, yeah, there'd be a whole lot of no democracy or republics in the world for a very, very long time. And Augustus Caesar is kind of the one who should be given more credit. And at Caesar's palace here in Las Vegas, it's actually based off of Augustus, not Julius. The more you know. All right, so there's the Roman Civil War. Ultimately, Julius Caesar wins. There's Julius Caesar. But as soon as he takes over, he's murdered by the people, and it really sucks. Yeah, he's stabbed to death by senators. But Augustus takes over, and Augustus establishes the power of Rome. All right. And for about 300 years after that event, the Roman Empire was the kind of big top dog country in in the European, African, Middle Eastern world. But the Roman Empire collapses when it's invaded by an army of Germans in the year 410. And why did the Roman Empire collapse? Oh man, I could tell you at length. Everything that possibly could have gone wrong went wrong. Bad leadership, bad military, bad economics, bad systems of government. It was all just, it all went to crap. After the Roman Empire collapsed, the world enters the Dark Ages, and things don't get better for about 1,000 years. So there's things going down, but bam, sacking of Rome. Okay, but now let me talk about the other side of the world. This is world history after all. Ancient China was the first major culture in Asia, and it began in the year 2100 BC. China was then and still remains very, very rich and the most populated country in the world. At any point in human history, you can say, what country had the most people? The answer is always China. And I think by many experiences, China is just like a really chill place to be during most of history. China doesn't have as many direct competitors as European countries had. So good on you, China, keeping it chill. All right, here's some Chinese people learning art, showing off their cities. And so let's also talk about China's geography for a little bit. China has a really, to its east, it has ocean, which is generally pretty defensible. To the south, there's big mountains and big jungles. To the west, there's big deserts. But the big problem that China has is there's no natural defense to its north. And the north of China, there are all these people who are riding these horses coming in, stealing stuff from China, riding away. So China got really frustrated and started to build the biggest building project in the world that would ultimately turn out to become the Great Wall of China. They started in the year 200 BC, and they sort of stopped building it in 1400 AD. I mean, it wasn't like officially finished, but they were just continually improving it for 1600 years. And yeah, it's really impressive that they were just building this wall forever and ever and ever. And some parts of the wall are much more effective than other parts. Like I'll zoom in on these pictures and you can see some parts of the wall really, really fancy. Some parts of the wall basically mud. But yeah, the whole idea was to stop being attacked from the north and to make a strong barrier for China. Okay, so this is the Great Wall of China, China's great monument to the world. And yeah, there's a big old hole right there in the wall. What the heck? Okay, but China's top dog status was ruined in the year 1200. The Mongol horse clans united under a dude named Genghis Khan. He led his armies, he took over China, he took over the Middle East. But sort of just like Alexander the Great, when Genghis Khan died, his sons split up the empire, everything kind of fell apart. Well, Alexander the Great didn't have any kids, but still everything fell apart. So, yeah, these military conquerors usually doesn't last. All right, that's it for that part. So there's the Mongols invading the Great Wall of China, took over this huge, giant country, and, yep, fighting it out, and big old statue of Genghis Khan. All right, cool. That's it for this presentation. Peace out.